Well, it's been a long time, but I really need to get something recorded here about the garden, so in we go. And we are about at the middle of August at this point. We're not at the 15th yet. I'm not sure what today's date is. Oh, I've got a whale of a tale to tell, a whale of a tale or two. The biggest part of it involves what happened after the last garden video you saw, which is we got rain and rain and rain and rain and rain and rain and rain. Which means we got waterlogged plus sun-starved, which stunted the growth of everything for about a month. That was kind of what July was like. And into August here, it's been somewhat of that also, but it seems like it's going away, so we might get a chance to get something. And I will tell you my tale of woe as I go along here, as I usually do with the containers. The Swiss chard here has done okay because it's a leafy vegetable. Leafy things grew like crazy, especially to begin with. It's like my yard. My yard is the greenest it's ever been this time of year. Look at this. Normally, most of the summers we've had, it's all burned out. Brown and looking icky, but this year it looks lush, even though much of it is weeds, but I mow them down, so it's green. That's the main thing. So back to this. So yeah, Swiss chard doing good. In here we get into the squash and cucumbers. I have none of either of those growing here, and I can't explain it. Maybe I only should have 1 or 2 squash plants at the most in a pot. I tried for a little more this year. Don't know if that's the problem or if it's just, like I said, being sun-starved. But so far, not a single cucumber or squash from this entire row. Completely useless for production so far. So, and here's a couple more of them here. That this looks a little better because it's only got 1 in it. And yet I haven't gotten anything from it yet either, nor have I gotten from these that were transplanted. So, not impressive at all. This is my second crop of beans here. We'll get to the first one. It's been planted, they're coming up, they may eventually yield something. They've been being eaten to some extent from the outside and a little bit by insects. We definitely have insect damage, which we'll see down here. These are the cabbage. I'll probably still get some heads of cabbage here. That one at the far left is going to be the least. It looks like they get better as they go to the right. At least it does to me. This one looks like it'll be the best of all of them. That most farthest to the right one is there. These are broccoli, of which I have gotten a very small size broccoli floret from each of these, and now a bunch of small ones. You can see that it's coming up with a million little dinky small ones here. But I've been getting stuff sort of like what you see right here. And I just have to pick a bunch of them. I've never gotten a lot of broccoli, so I don't consider that all that different, but still, it's not impressive. Not really. Oh, and behind me here was a couple of Judy's things, her herb collection doing wonderful. Leafy things have done okay. And there's a little bit of, I didn't pick out of it either. A little bit of the Swiss chard. I gotta pick some of that as well. I picked it already from the other Swiss chard, so it's not, when you saw the Swiss chard, there was more of it. Here's where the peas were, and actually still are, but there's nothing going on. I got maybe a handful of peas, and that was it. This is where the bush beans were and are. I am getting those, and there's still a few I haven't picked yet. I see a couple right over, well, there's one there. So there's still a few of them here I haven't picked yet, but I've been picking through these. There's a nice big one down there, I think. Anyway, down at the bottom. So anyway, there are beans. So I've been getting some beans. I've gotten more in other years. Then we get into the tomato area. The plants look horrible. They really do. And yes, you can tell I'm getting some of the small tomatoes, but they're going to be done very soon, and I haven't gotten very many of them at all. I used to fill bowls up with these things. Not so much. This was my row of, and over there is a row of cherry tomatoes. I've been getting maybe a handful or two cherry tomatoes. Does look like I'm going to get a Trombosino there. And I think there's another one that might be coming up. I think I saw another one. I gotta go down here and look at it from a different angle. Yeah. See it in there? I don't know if you can see it in there or not. There's one more. So a couple I will be picking here shortly. This had Swiss chard. Never went anywhere, just stayed small. I'm really not sure why. The soil here sucks, isn't deep enough. It likes it in the pots more where the roots are warm. I don't know. They did horrible here, absolutely horrible. And I've actually never had Swiss chard do well actually in the garden. It's always done well in containers. It's always done well in containers. So, but nothing else did well here either. There's more cucumbers here, because I moved them around to have some variation, so that's what makes me believe that it's the weather and not just the location that is making the biggest difference. So this is pretty crappy too. Very little signs of life in this garden as far as getting a lot of anything. Look at this. Look at these two tomato plants. Really nothing there. They're all but dead. And going down the line here, there's a few green ones that will eventually come. The most success has been with these early girls. They are now ripening up, and I've been picking some of them. But yeah, not a stellar year. Here's the Brussels sprouts. Don't know how this will come out. Again, you can see huge bug damage. I don't put on any kind of pesticide. What happens, happens. And I don't find any bugs to pick off of it, strangely. I don't know what does it. That one is too small to get anything. And then here's pepper plants planted in the ground. Not going to be doing this ever again. They don't like it in the ground. They only even start to grow in a pot. And in fact, over here is the one I put in a pot. And we are actually starting to form some peppers here. I think there's one right there, maybe. I don't know if I can get it to show up. And there's a couple more down there. Oh, there's a little Swiss chard I put in there on the side too, and around it. And that's doing well. Pots are really good for some things, and I think this year in particular. And the final abysmal row. More early girls, again, looking like they'll do something. More squash plants, looking more dead than alive, and really stunted and not growing well. So I didn't get a single yellow squash to mention. I mean, I think I got a couple of little dinky ones. I did get a big zucchini and a couple of small ones, and as I say, no real yellow squash other than a couple of very dinky ones. So squash has been abysmal, and I've gotten exactly zero, absolutely zero cucumbers. So I would have to mark this at this point as the worst year ever for gardening. And I don't think it's my own fault. Unless there's something out there I'm really missing big. But that's kind of how it has fleshed out here. I don't think there's too much else to show. The wall of glory, it didn't come up like it has some years, but it's coming up here and there and everywhere along down the fence with morning glories, as I allow it to do, and it replants itself each year. So there's some morning glories growing all the way from the gate, getting almost down to the other end. And there's even some that the seeds get blown over into the garden and they attempt to take root in the soil there, but I usually pluck them out. I can tell them when they're starting. So I don't know whatever news there is really to talk about the garden. I wanted this to be sweet and short. Composting, I haven't done a lot of composting. That's over there. I do have stuff in it. I take stuff out of the garden here because that stuff doesn't have chemicals in it. The grass and everything can. So, but it's not getting hot, and I don't know how to make it get hot, and I have tried balancing up the carbon, you know, the wood stuff and the green stuff, and different parts of it there. and putting a little water in it and turning it and all these things, and I never get it to get warm. But I can't say my garden gets really warm either. So that's been sort of a fail too, but it is making compost. Oh, it's just making over a long period of time, and that may be good enough. I can bring it out here. In fact, I have a pile over here that I'm using as a starter pile in the corner, and then I'll just dump compost here and let it be here, and then just make more. So there's this pile. This is not compost. This is like scrapings off the top of the ground here as I was cleaning out all these weeds and things that were growing. I'm probably going to rake it and then spread it out because it really isn't compost, and then I'll dump the actual compost right in there. But or I could put this in a container. I'm thinking about filling up a few containers, so I could do that too. And I could start growing stuff in here in more containers. That's another thing to do. There's the Jerusalem artichoke bunch there, along with, it's gotten a lot smaller, but it's there. It's a catmint. I don't even harvest it at the moment. I've got a bunch and we've been buying it, and so I've just let this grow. It's over here, not looking awfully good. It was looking better earlier. So that's mostly it. Sorry for the depressing report, but it is what it is. Some years it's great, some years not so much.